Okay, so there's this huge migration happening right now, but it's probably not the one you're thinking of. We're talking about something quieter, something happening behind the scenes. Some of the world's most successful people are packing up and leaving Western nations for good. And they're not just taking their suitcases, they're taking billions with them. This is what's being called the Great Wealth Migration, and we're going to dive into what's really driving it. You know, we've all heard this line from politicians, right? The idea is pretty simple. If you're successful, you should be happy to pay a big chunk of your wealth to fund great public services for everybody. It's pitched as, the bedrock of our social contract.
But here's the thing. If that's really true, then why are the wealthiest people leaving? It's a huge question, because if that idea was the whole story, you wouldn't see this growing exodus from places like London and Toronto. Something else is going on, and it really challenges that whole belief. So let's get into it.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about a handful of people here. This is a massive shift. We're talking about families, entire businesses, and literally billions in capital moving across the globe, basically redrawing the economic map.
All right, so to really get what's happening, you have to look at both sides of the coin. First up, the push factors. What is pushing people out? And it really all boils down to what the source material calls the brutal math of being successful in a lot of Western countries.
Let's just take a look at a couple of quick examples, right? In the UK, you've got a top income tax rate of 45%. But then you add on national insurance and boom, almost half of every single extra pound you earn is gone. Over in Canada, in places like Ontario and Quebec, it's even more intense. We're talking over 53%. Think about that. More than half your income vanishes before you even see it.
And it doesn't stop with your paycheck. Not even close. Say you're an entrepreneur who's built a business from scratch. You sell it and bam, you're hit with a capital gains tax of around 20%. Then, when you pass on, your family gets hit with a 40% inheritance tax. It's on money that's already been taxed over and over. It's like a lifetime gauntlet of taxes.
Okay, this chart really puts it all into perspective. When you stack up income tax, capital gains, and inheritance tax, a successful business owner in the UK could end up seeing 70% of their lifetime wealth go straight to the government. That's the staggering cumulative effect we're talking about. Now you might be thinking, okay, high taxes, but you get amazing public services, right? Well, that's the core of the argument here. The source claims that's just not what's happening. Instead, people are paying these incredibly high taxes, and in return, they're seeing healthcare systems buckling, record wait times, and public infrastructure that's literally crumbling. The whole value proposition just feels broken.
So that's the push. What about the pull? What's dragging all this talent and capital away? Well, it's an almost irresistible offer from these new global hubs that have a totally different philosophy. They don't see wealth as something to penalize. They see it as an asset to attract. And I mean, just look at this table. The difference is just, wow. In places like Dubai, we're talking 0% income tax, 0% capital gains, 0% inheritance tax. Zero. Singapore's a bit different, but its top rate is still just a fraction of what you'd pay in the UK or Canada, with no taxes on investments or inheritance. It's a completely different world.
And look, this isn't just some theory. The numbers absolutely back it up. In the last 5 years alone, Dubai has brought in over 60,000 millionaires. That is a mind-boggling transfer of capital and talent to just one city. But it's really important to get this. It's not just about the taxes. That's a huge part of it, for sure. But these places are offering the whole package. We're talking incredible safety, a super pro-business environment, a world-class lifestyle, and rock-solid property rights. They are literally rolling out the red carpet. Okay, so you've got the push, you've got the pull. But how is this even possible on such a massive scale? Well, the big enabler here, the game changer, is technology. It has completely untethered talent from geography. And this has led to this really powerful idea called geographic arbitrage. Basically, thanks to the internet and remote work, smart professionals and entrepreneurs can now leverage the differences between locations. They can live where tax rates are low and the quality of life is high, all without sacrificing their ability to run a global business. They get to choose where they're treated best.
This timeline really paints the picture of how much has changed and how fast. 20 years ago, if you were a top banker, you had to live in London or New York. No question. But today, a tech founder can run a global empire from a laptop in a high-rise in Singapore. The rules of the game have been completely rewritten.
Okay, so why should any of this matter to you if you're not a millionaire planning a move? Well, because when a successful person leaves a country, they don't just take their bank account with them. They take an entire economic ecosystem.
Yeah, just think about it for a second. The jobs that founder would have created? Gone. The corporate taxes their company would have paid? Gone. All the local spending they and their employees would have done at restaurants, shops, for services, all of it just gets uprooted and planted somewhere else. And the scale of this brain drain is just staggering. I mean, the UK is projected to lose 10,000 millionaires in 2025, just 1 year. And the estimated cost of that exodus? A whopping £10 billion in lost taxes and economic activity. That's a huge hit. This is what the source material describes as a kind of death spiral. See, when the most mobile, high-earning taxpayers leave, the government's tax base shrinks. So what happens? To make up for that lost revenue, the tax burden has to shift, and it inevitably shifts downward, right onto the shoulders of the middle class, the very people who can't just pack up and move. So, let's pull back for a second. What does this all add up to? The source material doesn't just see this as an economic trend. It frames this whole migration as a really powerful warning sign.
And this quote really nails it. The millionaires packing their bags are essentially the canary in the coal mine. It's this idea that they are the first signal, the early warning, that the whole economic environment, the balance of taxes, services, and opportunity, is becoming unstable.
And that brings us to the final, really critical question at the heart of all of this. This huge migration. It's not just about numbers on a tax form. It's a deep challenge to the way things are. It really forces us to ask, is that social contract, the one between high-tax governments and their most productive citizens, is it fundamentally breaking down?